Hey, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and I'm sitting here on a rooftop in New York City with one of my all-time favorite singers, songwriter, performers, who has a brand new record coming out called War in My Mind. Welcome, the amazing Beth Hart.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, let's start with the new record.
Okay.
War in My Mind, it's a striking lyrical image, and I think everyone that hears it will have their own connection to that phrase.
Yeah.
What was yours?
Okay, so I'll tell you the honest-to-God story of what happened. It's going to be very dramatic, but I tend to be overly dramatic anyway with everything. So I had 5 years, 5 months, and 6 days of sobriety once when I was young, and I lost it. And when I lost that sobriety, I couldn't get sober again for 8 years. I was struggling, and it got so bad that I decided one day I was going to kill myself. So I woke up and I got on my knees. I didn't really want to, because if I really wanted to, I wouldn't have gotten on my knees and begged God. And I said, listen, you got to help me out here, man, because I'm going to take myself out. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep running off and hiding in bushes and leaving my husband, abandoning people, and go. And you know, right? Yeah. Because of the thing. Yeah. And I heard a voice, bipolar or not, that said, I want you to go to this church. And I didn't know what denomination of a church it was. I didn't know Buddha, Christian, what it was. I didn't care. I went. And when I went, it was all in Korean. And I remember looking up to the ceiling and going, are you kidding me? You want me to come to a Korean church? I can't understand one word. And the voice said, you keep coming back to this church. So every Sunday I'd go. It was in Korean. And finally one day this Korean lady gets up and she speaks in English. And she has become my sister. She's become like my spiritual mother. And she set me back on the road, and in January 3rd, if I make it there, I'll have 5 years sober.
Congratulations.
And it took me almost a decade to get sober again, right? Like such a gift. Well, one day I come back off the road and I go to service, and she announces that she's being moved to a church, Hawaii, far away. I jumped up in that church, wow, screaming and crying, ran, because I only lived 3 blocks from the church, ran home and immediately sat down and wrote War in My Mind, because I think the fear was, I know this from experience, if I don't stay sober, the medicines I take for my mental challenges don't work. It blocks it from being able to work, and it makes my brain chemistry worse. Even though it gives me that momentary feeling buzz of warmth, the aftermath the next day is always worse depression, back into worst mania. So I thought, that's it. I'm going to lose my sobriety, and then I'm going to be mentally ill, worse than ever, because it only gets worse, right? Unless you take care of it. But that didn't happen, and she stayed really close to me. But yeah, that's what War in My Mind is about. Is about being terrified of any minute that war is going to start back up again. And I know where I go when it does. And I like to think of myself as a very strong and positive person, but in truth, I'm not. I'm very weak, very scared, and I think that's why I put up this strong front, and I talk loud, and freaking I wear my biker boots, and I get my tattoos, because I'm trying so hard to convince myself that I'm stronger than what I actually am. And long answer, huh? Can you believe it?
Keep going with them. And the title track itself, War in My Mind, musically, I mean, it builds up to almost a storm while you're playing, and I think it's the perfect cover art for the record, because that's exactly where that song builds. Were the music and lyrics sort of intertwined for you, or did you have that piece of music and then fit lyrics to it?
How I always do it, unless I'm co-writing with someone, but how I write on my own is the music comes very fast for some reason, and then the lyric I usually have to work really at length on, and when I say at length, maybe over a year, because I'm such a stickler about words, and it's not just I'm stickler about words, I'm a stickler about finding the truth, because I know me, basically I lie to myself just to keep me in a false sense of security. So I'm certain, and I know that about me, and I know you can't do that. If you're ever going to heal, if you're ever going to get better, you've got to search for it and keep searching for it. But every once in a while, the lyric comes fast, and it came fast on that day. And I think that's just because it was obvious. I've been up and down with my head so much. Here comes the war in my mind,
And you worked with Rob Cavallo on this record.
Yeah, man, what a nice guy.
Just an amazing talent. What did he bring to your songs?
He brought everything. Let me tell you the most important thing he brought. He first, number one, brought real sensitive encouragement. I'll give you an example. He loved Sister Dear. That was the first song of mine he heard. I played it at a party at his house. We had no agreement to work together at all. I was at that party because my best girlfriend, Erica's sister's married Rob.
Okay.
I had just written Sister Dear that week. I had War in my mind from, I don't know, a month or so prior. And I had also been working on Rub Me for Luck. So I played all three on the piano. He came up and he said, Sister Dear, I like it even better than Mom, This One's For You. He goes, I love this song. I want to produce it. So we only had a plan for him to produce 1 to 3 songs. Those 3 that I played at his house, yes? And I was a little reluctant because I'm always worried. So I always want to work with new producers, but I'm also scared of change. But I know it's important to just open you up to new records, never repeating. And also, what's really funny is I turn in always a lot of songs, at least 30 to 50 songs for each record. So I know, and I love them all the songs, but everybody's got a different opinion of what they think is a good song, right? So I like to see what they choose, because I never say, this is what I want to do. I have a sound in mind, but I don't have, here's all these songs. We can't put all those songs. And the first thing he did was he was just like, look, I just want to capture what I believe, what I'm seeing is your most vulnerability, your deepest part of your heart. He goes, and then I said, well, maybe you should hire a pianist, a really good piano player, to play all my parts. I'll just turn in, what I play. And he goes, that's ridiculous. He goes, why would you say that? And not every record, like I've played on a lot of records, but there's also a lot of different producers who don't like the way I play, because I don't play well to a click. And people like to use click because you can cut and paste very easily. It makes it easier for them when it comes down for mixing and all that. And he said, you're an idiot. He goes, absolutely not. He didn't say the word idiot, but you know what I mean, in my mind. And he's like, no, you have to play. And I'm like, I can't play to that click, man. I just can't do it. It's going to be horrible. He goes, oh, yeah, you'll be fine. He goes, we have a moving click. So I play to the click, and he's like, oh, yeah, that doesn't work, But, he made it work with a few things. But most of the record is just a live piano vocal. And then the band is built around it. And it worked way better, I thought. But I loved that he did that, And he didn't try and orchestrate it with a ton of stuff. He was just... and every idea he had was brilliant, really good.
And I think the track that sort of stands out as, something a little different from anything you've ever done was Sugar Shack.
Yeah. Yes.
How the music to that, is that just I'm going to experiment and try new stuff?
It's got a really great little story, I think, anyway, to it. Okay, so I'd written that with a buddy of mine named named James House. I've also worked with Glenn Burtnick throughout the years, but James House, who's really an unbelievable singer and songwriter. So we wrote Sugar Shack, but in my mind it was never really finished, even though I always loved it, and I would turn it in every record with every new producer, and they'd always pass over it. But that one, he said, no, I like this, right? I'm like, yeah, but it's missing a whole section, isn't it? Because I don't know. He goes, but I have an idea. And the idea that he had was, he had Jamie, amazing keyboard player, do the dancey kind of, like it reminds me of if you took Trent Reznor, right, like a 9 Inch Nails vibe, and you put it with early 80s dance club music.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the perfect description.
And it made it so sexy and sweaty, and it made it darker. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, in the studio, when we were actually tracking, that's when I came up with the breakaway section of, it was a whole new chord part of, in the sugar shack, slipping through the crack, it will always bring you back. Those little haunted ghost girls, right? And then that was it. So when it was finished, I was like, oh my God, I love this song now more than ever. And it made me want to make a whole record of this. Because you get to be really soulful. Yeah. It's not depressing lyric. It's a sexual, kind of naughty lyric, which is fun. Yeah. And it's something different, and it's energy. It's a lot of energy, and that would be great to add, I think. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll get a shot at doing that. But he killed it on that song. He became a writer on that song because of that. I called James, like, cool, can we bring him in as a writer? He's like, yeah. So, yep.
And you always have, sort of a spirituality to your writing as well.
Oh, yeah.
And, without words in the way, and Let It Grow on the new record, especially with that gospel chorus behind it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you talk about, you know, coming and doing a whole record of something like Sugar Shack. Have you ever thought about doing a gospel record?
Absolutely.
God, I think you would kill that.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that more than anything, just because, you know, I don't believe in running around and preaching to people about what to believe in and to have a God. Like, I don't, like, to me, I've met some atheists that are some of the most spiritual people. They hate me saying that to them, but they're living right. Yep. And to me, spirituality really just comes down to taking responsibility of how important it is in your life, to not show how great you are through accomplishments of work or accomplishments of things or what you look like, you know, all vanity, but accomplishments in reaching out and loving people that you don't even know, that you're never been taught you're supposed to love, people that you, in fact, you've been taught to hate, and you love them. That, to me, is spirituality. So to make a gospel record, I think it would be so amazing to just stand up for that, for real love, and try and write about that, to seek that out and see maybe if little angels come in and help us to write that, you know?
Yeah, well, because those two songs, I think, represent both ends of, you know, what's traditionally gospel. You have the slow, you know, sort of prayer of without words in the way, and then you have the get up and move, so let it grow. So.
Yeah, I love Let It Grow. And I wrote that with Rune. So you see, more positivity.
And, you know, we had talked earlier, too, your writing is deeply personal, probably more than any other artist, you know, I've encountered. As you go forward, are there songs that you won't revisit live because of the memory it brings up?
No, in fact, the more struggle or pain or overcoming a song represents to me, those will become the staples. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not because I'm courageous to show that. I think it's because I started so young in therapy. I was 7 when I started doing consistent therapy with doctors. And even in school, they made it mandatory for me to also see the counselor every day for an hour. So I was always working with people that taught me the way to set yourself free is to face all your most difficult stuff head on, get more uncomfortable, and through that being uncomfortable, through facing that, that's where you really get to go, oh my God, I'm seeing it from different perspectives, and and the healing really does begin. So for me to keep that going in the work, it's not because of courage, it's because I'm so afraid of going back to hiding and trying to pretend I'm something else, because I think what I am is not enough, is not good enough, and that's such a dangerous spot. And even though there will always be a part of me that feels that way, there are other parts that kind of look at that part of me and hug her and kiss her and go, you're so fricked up, but you need my love, not my judgment. So those are what those songs represent, and it's easy to talk about that. It really is, and it's freeing to write about it.
And it's weird because, you know, I think common sense would sort of tell you the opposite. But I always found that the more personal your writing, you know, to your specific experience, the more universally people react to it. Whereas if you try to write something general, it kind of goes past everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's because no matter how different we all may seem, what backgrounds we come from, we're still all human beings. We all need love. We all need someone to make us feel like we're a part of something that matters. We're all terrified of death. I don't care how many people say, oh, I got no fear of death. Bull crap. You can't not, because there really is no proof. I mean, that's what faith means, isn't it? Having faith in something that there's no evidence of. So it's where we really are more the same than we are different, you know?
And, you know, kind of take a little left turn here, going back a bit. Your collaboration with Joe Bonamassa really brought you a whole new audience.
Unbelievable,
How did that first come about?
So it's fuzzy because I've heard so many different stories about it. So, you know, sometimes even when you experience something, but you hear so many different, you start going,
changes your own outlook.
Yeah, exactly. But how I remember it is I was playing a little place in England or in London, and Scott, my husband, came up to me and said that Joe had come down, or he'd sent someone down to say that he wanted to maybe do a soul cover record. And so Kevin Shirley and I, which is the producer of all of Joe's stuff, he and I started talking and swapping back and forth ideas of songs to cover. and we figured out a big group of songs, and this is what we've done every record, and then I learn everything, and then we literally show up the day of recording, no rehearsal, we get behind our instruments and we go. And if there's anything in the arrangement that Kevin Shirley thinks should shift, it shifts, and it's fast, and it's fun, and it's great. The only one I didn't have fun at all on was the last one, unfortunately, and I don't like that record. But the other two I adored, and Kevin and Joe totally shifted me as a songwriter, because here I am getting to sing these amazing songs by amazing writers and really great singers, and going, oh my God, I love doing this stuff so much. Why don't I learn this vocabulary of chords? And maybe I can bring that into what I do and go into a new place. Because, I mean, I got to tell you, I was at a point where I was kind of burned out. I felt like I was starting to reiterate. And this was a whole new thing. Because anytime, it depends on the chord structures of things. If it reminds me of a reggae song, if it reminds me of a rock song, reminds me of a singer-songwriter song, reminds me of a soul song, a gospel song, it inspires a whole new narrative in me. And then that's where I'll go lyrically, yeah? And now this was all new. And it was so exciting, you know, and it stayed that way ever since.
Well, it's funny, because that was going to be what I was going to ask, is how did singing those classic songs, you know, it obviously had an impact, because then you listen to Bang Bang Boom Boom, and, you know, even a little on A Place Like Home, that you sort of hear that bleeding into what you began to write, which is really cool.
Really fun and exciting. Well, as a kid, all my family all were into many different type of genres, and they're all extreme listeners of music. So I grew up hearing really different genres all day long in the house, right? So my sisters, you know, would have their thing. My mother also has a wide palette for different genres. My father too. So I'm hearing all these different styles, and one of the styles I heard a lot of was like the American songbook style stuff, really early songwriting, jazz stuff, storytelling stuff, that kind of thing. And I loved it, but I didn't have the resonant warmness of a voice to carry it off with the ones I loved anyway. I had a higher throat. And thankfully, I don't know if it was due to smoking or just getting older, but like around 37, my vocal range on the low end way dropped down like an octave, and I got this whole new low end. And then it was like, when I did the Joe record, I was like, oh my God, I think I can do this and it not be too horrible, you know? And that's, I think, another reason why I said maybe I can go in this direction as a writer too.
And, you know, as someone who saw you before the Bonamassa records and after, you know, I've seen your audience change and grow. Did you almost feel like you had to reintroduce your old material to a new audience?
You know what? I've never worried about that kind of thing. And I think it's because it's not that I haven't worried about being able to do this for the rest of my life, but I've never worried about being a super famous person. And it really is two totally different things. Because being super famous is you have a consistency of songs on the radio or songs up for a certain audience that want this. Not everyone is open to many different genres. And as a songwriter, I cannot help but have a wide range. And as I get older, it gets wider. And I just like that. So I think I kind of knew at a younger point that wherever I was going to go and shift to, if I would lose audience, gain audience, it wasn't a big deal because I've never had a huge audience. So it was kind of a luxury to not be a star, because it gives me all this room to go and move without feeling like I'm losing anything, you know? When I play for a 5,000 room or even a 10,000 room, it's not often. I usually do a 3,000 room to 1,000 room. And to me, that's a big audience. To someone who was a star when they were young, they would probably feel like their career was slowing down. So it's kind of neat to not experience that.
It's all your perspective.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, your live shows, one thing that just always grabbed me is your live shows almost have a personality to them. You know, sometimes it'll be a lot of more emotional songs. Sometimes it'll be a lot more upbeat songs. Sometimes it'll be all, you know, in a blues vein. Do you sort of have that in mind as you're putting the set list, or do you just grab songs you're thinking of and all of a sudden there it is?
I never have a palette in mind, But what I do is I go with just what I'm in the mood to do that night. So, and the band is so great because my band knows everything. They basically know every record, you know, and they're really great guys. And I also don't mind mistakes because I make them all the time, so I can't get mad at them if they make mistakes, especially when I'm shifting the list up pretty much every night. So I go with the mood I'm in, I guess.
Well, it was funny. I actually saw you back-to-back nights last year on the Kenny Wayne Shepherd tour, New Haven and Albany, and they were two completely different shows. You know, just the vibe of each. And it was, you know, I don't know of many artists who could just pull off that complete, you know, change in personality of the show in back-to-back nights like that. It was pretty amazing to watch.
And I don't think it has anything to do with a talent level or a courage level. I think it just has to do with when you're into something, the audience believes it. When you're not into something, they don't believe it. But my intention is always coming from what is going to make me feel good up there, which is a bit selfish, actually, because I really should consider the audience first always. That's my job. But I just can't help it. I'm naturally a selfish motherfucker, man.
You mentioned your band, and those guys are amazing. You know, John Nichols, Bob Marinelli, Bill Ransom. How long? They've been with you for quite a while now.
Well, yeah, Bill was with me when I was 27. Then he quit because I was such an addict. Thank God he did that, though. That was a good thing. Atlantic, too, they were the best freaking record company, and for them to let me go when they did, to me, whether it was because they cared about me or because they just didn't believe I could do anything for them, I don't even care, because it really helped save me. So people abandoning me when I was messed up, what a gift, you know? Even though the other people that stay with you, they love you, but it's just more encouragement to stay with what you're doing. Because addicts, when they're using, they really don't give a frick about anything, but they don't even care if they die. They just want to get high, you know? So, Bill was with me, then he left, and then I met Bob, and then Bill came back kind of right around the same time I met Bob. And then Johnny's been with me since I was 27, and I met him through my husband Scott, who's known him for years before that. So Scott's known John for like 40 years or something crazy. Yeah.
Well, I remember the first time I ever saw you was here in New York at the basement of Webster Hall, where it was just you and John.
Yeah.
And it still ranks up there as one of the greatest nights I've ever seen. Just, you know, the sound of your voice in that small room, just you and your piano and John there. It was definitely a memorable show.
John's so great. Yeah, I love Johnny.
And now, you know, Immortal came out in '96, and you know, before that you had the Ocean of Souls record. So it's been about 25 years that you've been in the business.
Yeah.
How have you seen things change for women in music over those years?
Okay, now I gotta tell you something, man. This is the God's honest truth. I don't know if it's because I'm in a total state of denial, or if it's just because I just don't look at things from that. I never look at something from a defensive point of, because I don't get this or that, it's because I'm a woman. I never have, and I never will. So in my experience in this business, I have never, ever had a fight or a struggle about anything creatively or financially where I thought it was based on me being a woman. I just have never thought that way. I've never had a man try and sexually do something to me in the business. I did as a kid with a child predator, but not in the business where they were saying, if you do this, you're going to get it. I just never have. But I've heard, of course, the stories about, women in rock don't get the respect that men in rock do. But I have personally never felt it, not towards me. And if it was there, I didn't notice it. Yeah.
And now the record comes out at the end of September. You have a pretty extensive European tour planned through the fall and the winter. Will we get to see you back here in the States after that?
Oh, yeah. Every year now we're doing the States at least twice, different parts of it, as well as Europe. We've been doing that for some years now. And then we're running around kind of all over the place now, which I love. It's something new and different, and everyone, has got a similarity, but also a difference, and so it's great too, because in some areas they want more jazz, or some areas they want more blues, some areas they want all the singer-songwriter stuff like Light On and all that. So it's fun because it kind of fits what I like to do anyway. But dude, you know how grateful I am to be 100 years old and still getting to do this, especially in that I never really had the success, and I'm still getting to work. I mean, I think I've been really lucky. I got to survive addiction. You're still working on it, of course. You never know when
Always,
that motherfucker's going to rear its head. But it's like, I get to work and be married to a nice guy. I mean, I really don't have anything to complain about, even though I love to complain.
Well, again, I can't thank you enough for this. You know, I'm a huge fan, and I wish you the best of luck with this record and tour. And anytime you ever need to talk or get dates out or get anything out, send me a note. I'm here. Thank you.
You're so nice. Yes.